Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for inviting me to this event. It's pretty impressive to see how big an audience are coming to talk about internal communication. Pretty impressive as well to see all the senior managers who's talked before me here. I'm actually going to keep my speech fairly short. One, because I think a lot of intelligent stuff has been said. And two, I know how it hurts to put these headphones on. I've been sitting with these on now for 2 hours. So if you can bear with me with my English and not put the headphones on, I'll promise you that's even better. ZUNO, as you probably know, is a pretty young organization. We're about 5 years old, and everything in ZUNO has been built from scratch. So also the company culture. And of course, internal communication has been a very, very strong, let's say, tool, vehicle for building the culture. The brand idea itself by ZUNO is to create something different, something new, something alternative to, let's say, the traditional banks, both in Slovakia and in Czech Republic, and eventually also beyond that. So we had to create also a culture that supported that brand idea. My background is not HR, it's not finance, my background is marketing, so I'm a big supporter of building brands, and I very much believe that building brands is actually something that comes from inside. Building brands is something that comes with culture. Obviously, you have to have a strong brand idea, and a lot of people have talked about brand and how you connect internal communication also to your brand idea. But obviously for ZUNO, who was a completely new company, completely new idea just 5 years ago, we had to put a lot of effort into getting the internal communication right, so that could actually be the vehicle to create a culture that then again could communicate and support the brand idea of ZUNO, of being an alternative, new, fresh bank on these two markets. So I guess the general point I'm trying to make here is that I think a lot of people use internal communication. They've learned about internal communication. They've seen it as a lot of tactical steps. Okay, you have newsletters, you have blogs, you can have a lot of different new tools. But I think ultimately they all need to fit to the company's strategy, and they all need to fit to the brand that you want to build, the brand that you want to convey and position yourself as in the market. So this is something that I strongly believe in. But I'm happy to hear that most of my colleagues here on the previous podium and now here as well are making that connection too. So enough of kind of more general things. I wanted to also just share with you one experience that we have made in ZUNO over the short history that we've been in the market. As many startup companies, we obviously go through different phases. You have the initial phase where it's honeymoon, everybody is very excited, we're building a company, and internal communication just goes by itself, and everything is just very, very positive. But then again, as any company, and especially I think in startups, you hit the wall, things change, the economic environment change, your owners have different ideas of what you should do. So you go through these waves where suddenly the kind of rosy times are potentially not so rosy anymore. And you need to make sure that you keep the kind of the foot on the pedal, and you keep your organization and the people engaged and keep working on creating the company and being positive and have a good spirit and stay, let's say, true to the culture and the brand that we want to make. If I want to make just a couple of concrete examples where we had taken learning, about 18 months ago, and most of you, I guess, you're Slovak, so you've seen this in the press. We had a bit of a, what I would call, and excuse me for the language, a bit of a shitstorm in the press about 18 months ago. We hit the evening news. We were, in more than 30 different newspapers, online portals, etc., where it was speculated that we would either close or merge with Tatra Banka, or I don't know what the various rumors were. And we obviously, there's no smoke without fire. So yes, we were definitely going through a process of evaluating the future of ZUNO at that stage, which is, again, I think natural in any new company and startup. You go for a while, then you stop and you evaluate your strategy and you think of the next steps. And we were in that process. We had not communicated proactively to the organization about this at that time. And obviously, suddenly you have almost 300 employees reading about it in the news that we will close the bank. People had phone calls from their family, from their friends, are you going to lose the job, and what have you. And here we were, the management not having been proactive and having to comment on rumors, gossip, what have you, people being afraid. And it was extremely difficult. It was extremely difficult to turn this negative, let's say, atmosphere that created in the organization, turn that back into just neutral. That took long time. Again, the learning for me was that we had not taken this proactively. We had to reactively communicate to people, and that is extremely difficult in such a situation. Recently, a couple of months ago, we actually started another evaluation of the strategy of ZUNO going forward. And again, for those of you who follow the news, we are actually in a sales process of ZUNO. I would rather than even call it as finding the right investor to take ZUNO to the next step. When we started to have those discussions around actually entering into such a process, I was very, let's say, insisting with our current owners that we should be able or allowed to communicate to the organization proactively this time. This was not something that our owners in Vienna was very keen on, but after a lot of discussion, we finally agreed that we would do that. So we sat down first with management. We created a good management communication packet. We created the Q&As for the people, and then eventually we pulled all the senior management levels, so board -1, about 30 people together, and we actually talked them through what we want to do. And asked them then again, we gave them the tools and asked them to then cascade that message down throughout the organization by the end of the week. Now, my learning here was that once we actually could do that proactively, not only do you get a lot of points from your leaders and your employees that you're actually open and honest, coming forward and talking about what's going on in the organization, but also once actually this now hit the news, which was just a week after, somebody leaked the news, it came to the press, it was a completely different, let's say, atmosphere and reaction in the organization. People were positive about it, they answered customer requests, they talked to each other based on what we had communicated proactively in this case. So again, just a bit of an example and a bit of advice. If you're going through tough times, if you know that there will be changes, major changes in the organization, better be upfront, proactive, take ownership of the story, of the communication. Not only do you save yourself for a lot of trouble, but you get a lot of credit from the people who then needs to continue to perform through those tough times. So with that, I'm just going to stop it here. I look forward to getting hopefully some interesting questions as we go through the panel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So my first question, how do you perceive internal communication as a managing tool for the manager of your position?
I think that internal communication for me is really most important vehicle we have to, let's say, cascade and communicate the strategic direction, the values, the culture that we want to create in the business to, again, as I said earlier, to build the brand of the company. So this is how I see it. It's a vehicle to transport those messages to the organization.
Thank you very much. And my second question, on the level of internal communication, what is happening now? What is the actual challenge of internal communication in ZUNO, Slovakia?
As you know, we're going through a pretty challenging time at the moment. We will have a lot of change ahead of us. There's a lot of ambiguity in the organization because we don't know what will happen. So it's important in my mind to be proactive, to be as transparent as possible during this time, and also communicate as often as we can. And as I said earlier, even if we don't have big news to tell something, show management is active, show the face of the management, and give people a feeling that we are on top of this.
Thank you very much and good luck.